your truck should be fully assembled except for fuel tanks and steps, or excuse me, your fuel tanks and, yeah, the steps. God, I can't. So tonight we'll put these 4 parts on, and then we will come in and do some detail work on the cab. And while we're thinking about it, I'm going to get my paint pens. So we'll be using Molotow Chrome. We're going to be using black paint pen. It helps if you put these in, if your workspace is kind of cool, it helps if you put those 2 items in a pocket or near a space heater or something. That way you can, the ink and everything will flow a little better, and it's just easier to work with. So that's something you should be aware of. I do not have a red paint pen, so I'm going to get my Rich Red Rough Profound, or Red Rouge Profound, or Profond fingernail polish, and that is what I'm going to use to put my Kenworth logos on with. So I don't have any good Kenworth logos to go on those spots right there. And behind that, there's an air vent right here. I don't have those, so we are going to go ahead and just use that. Okay. So where are we at here? On the frame rails, there is a little lip right here. And for those of you that already have the kit in hand, here's something you can see. You can kind of, I don't know, let's see if we can get this. Yeah, there you can see it, right there. There's a little lip. And what happens is your fuel tank does not have a corresponding ledge. So the possibility of this not setting well and proper is high. So we want to go ahead and fix that. We want to get that tidied up. So what I've been doing is I will take a piece of scrap styrene and I will lay that inside this frame rail, and then I have a nice good place to glue my tank and my step to. So let's go find us a junk piece of styrene. Doesn't matter too much what you're going to use. Anything will work, and it needs to be as long as your step and your fuel tank. So basically, let's say 1 inch and maybe 1/4 long to start. You can always trim it down if you want. So I'm going to go ahead and look for some scrap styrene. Let's see what we got here. Here's a good piece. I like this one. Actually, I like this even better. So I have a scrap deck plate off of a DCP Peterbilt. I'm just going to trim this down. It's got a nice thickness to it. That should work fine. Where's my knife? Well, my knife disappeared. Let's get another one. It's got these little pegs on it, so I'm just going to trim those off. Okay, that feels good. Nice and smooth. Let's go ahead and trim that down a little bit. And we want that 1 inch and 1/4 or so. All right, let's see if we made it thin enough. Oh, of course I didn't. Well, that's okay. We can make it thinner. I have some glue here, right there, getting in the way. I wonder if I just trim that out. Can I trim that a little bit more? Let's see if that did it. Nope. Okay. No worries. We'll just trim this. This does not have to be precise. As you can well see, I'm not being particularly precise here. You could actually, since this stuff is so cheap, you could just cut a brand new piece if you want, because it's just scrap, right? Okay, that's what I want right there. Let's get it out. And we're going to get the model maker's secret weapon here. Get our Sharpie out and just give it some color. Most of this will be hidden with your fuel tank and your step. We just want to make sure there's no blue, well, I want to make sure there's no blue poking out. Or if this were white, I wouldn't want any white poking out. Just a tiny bead of glue, we don't need a lot there. Okay, a little Insta-Set for good luck. And there it is. Just a splash, we don't need a lot. Okay. I'm putting the fuel tank with the step here at the back, and then I'm going to put my battery box and step toward the front. It really is up to you where you position these and how close to the front fender. That's all your personal taste. I mean, you're the critic here for your work. So when you're smiling, it's perfect. When you're happy, it's wonderful. I'm going to make sure that that's square with my cab. A little splash of Insta-Set there to make it happy. And if you want, you can position these farther down. You'll have to modify things just a little bit to get them to fit farther down on the frame or where you want them. It's really personal taste and personal choice. So that dude's just sliding around there for me, so okay. I think in real life, this step would be a little farther down, wouldn't be quite so close to the bottom of the cab. So, something to keep in mind. Okay, we're going to get another piece of plastic here. We'll cut this one a little narrower than the first one, so we don't have to cut it twice. And again, we're going to make it inch and quarter. Okay. Model Maker secret weapon. Boing. Depending on how good your Sharpie is, you may have to go over this twice once the ink dries. Oh, what are you doing? Okay. So I have a little Instaset right here on this frame rail. Got a little sloppy, all right? Not a problem. Just be aware of it. You can wipe that off, or you can just go ahead and put your glue on your step and then put it in. Just make sure that you're aware. You may not have you'll have a few seconds in order to position that where you want. And that's actually kind of handy if you're putting like a visor on a truck, to have a little Instaset there, and then you put the glue on the visor and stick it on. That does kind of work really well, not gonna lie. I am going to eyeball so I kind of get these steps parallel. Okay. Okay, I think I'm happy with that. That ought to work. Okay. Now, for exhaust, let's talk about that. You can do a couple of choices here. You can put any kind of exhaust you want up the bottom or up the side, okay? So you can go ahead and put something up the side, bevel, miter, stovepipe, whatever you like. On either side, one side, choose, doesn't matter. You could put something along the bottom and make it a weed burner. If that's important to you, you could. Or you could just set it on your layout like that, and look at that, it's a weed burner. Okay? So if you're not, it just kind of depends on what story do you want to tell yourself and tell your buddies when they come over to look at it, and if they pick it up, right? So you have choices there as far as that detail is concerned. I just did a couple of these for a harvester, and their truck had one exhaust pipe on the passenger side, if I recall correctly. Was it one or two? Ah, shoot, now I forgot. So it's entirely up to you. So I like to use aluminum pipe for, some small diameter aluminum pipe for smaller trucks like this. Just kind of gives it the kind of look I want. I will go ahead and use solder right here. I keep that on hand because then I can run my aluminum pipe down the side right here and then make it stop toward the bottom of the cab. Then I can weasel a piece of this in. I can bend this really easy with a plier or with your finger or whatever, and you can bend it around to go toward the frame so it looks like it's going to an engine compartment or something like that. So you got choices there, and it's really, again, this is personal preference. So you can make it dual pipe, you can make it single, you can, yeah, you got the point. I won't beat that dead horse. So I forget what size of pipe this is. This is a really small diameter pipe. May not even be realistic for this truck, but I do like how it fits between, or right behind that door frame and the cab. Unfortunately, that don't fit, does it? That doesn't work at all. So let's see what other kind of pipe I've got here. I got brass pipe. That's not, ooh, what do we got there? Oh, we can make a stovepipe out of that. Before we commit, let's make sure I don't have anything else hanging around. I don't have anything else. Okay. I usually keep that size of pipe on hand just because it's... Oh, wait a minute. Ooh, look at that. I found it. All right, let's put that away. Might need that someday. Not a real beautiful pipe. It's got some glue or some funk on it, but it shall work. Let's put the glue and we'll cut this bend out of it. We'll put the rest of that on there. And then I'm gonna make me a nice little miter on there. I'm a miter pipe guy. I'm not gonna lie. I like them. My favorite. No particular reason. Just like the way they look. That's it. So I want to cut that bend out of there because somewhere along the line I put a bend in that pipe. It's really soft, by the way, this aluminum pipe. If you've not used it, it's soft, but it's super easy to work with. Okay, let's put a little mark on there so we know where to kind of cut that. Okay, there's my mark more or less. Whoa, where are you going? Somebody didn't put that tight enough, did they? Oh, come on. And I save all my scraps just 'cause. Okay, let's bring this back and see what we have. That'll be all right. If you want to shine up your aluminum pipe, leave it a bit longer and then get you some steel wool. And you can I put it in my drill and then just run it, and the steel wool will shine it up real nice. I'm gonna put a miter on my exhaust pipe here because I like miters, as I've already said. Perfect. That's right, the pipe does polish out easy. Okay, there's some glue or some funk on there. I'm just kind of scraping it off with my finger. That's actually going to be toward the bed side, so I'm not too really worried about that. That'll do. I want it tall, but not too tall. We just want to keep the exhaust noise out of the back so our passengers don't go deaf. And if this thing's pulling a camper, why? Or some other tall vehicle, we'll keep the exhaust off it too. Okay, let's do this. Not getting too crazy there with the glue. We're not pouring concrete here. We're just putting on an exhaust pipe. I'm going to kind of keep this parallel to the door frame, so that's going to be my straight edge. Oh, and we're going to have to turn that a little bit. Ay. Maybe we'll turn it. There it goes. Okay. There we go. So I'm just kind of looking at that back. Want to make sure that that miter's nice and straight back there. That glue really dried quickly. Now, we're going to use our solder here to make our elbows and all that stuff. And one thing I kind of got in a hurry, didn't tell you, it's good if you take something and kind of get the burrs out of the inside of your pipe. That way the solder goes in easier. Because that solder fits 332 pipe. See? Next, go ahead and put just a little elbow in there. And I'm going to come back, Put another elbow in there. And it looks like I'm going to need that to be at least that long. Now, the solder, if you happen to buy some of this and keep this on hand, if you make a mistake, start over. You got a whole roll to go through. It'll last you 5 lifetimes unless you actually use it for soldering things together. But if you're just using it for exhaust elbows, you're going to have this for a long time, so don't be afraid to burn it up if you don't like the way it looks or it's just not coming together well for you. Okay, 824, we are on target. Oh, come on now. Don't be a jerk. There we go. Just like that. So I dry fit it. It's not quite to the frame, but that's pretty good. And actually, that's way more glue than we need. There. Just wiped a little bit off on the rag. And then get in there, you knucklehead. And there our exhaust is on. Check that. Love it. Cool. Okay. You really won't have to worry about any of that coming out, so you can kind of keep moving forward if you choose. Or if you have something else to do and that's all you got done in one evening, then I think you did just well. Or you can hit it with some Insta-Set if you want. That's perfectly fine too. No worries on that. Okay, next, we talked about doing some detail work on the side of our truck. Let's get that done. And then we will essentially be completed. I am actually going to do one bonus lesson where we just do a whole bunch of additional pieces to this next week. And I have my C65 to finish up as well. So we'll just do one more bonus lesson. So first thing we're going to do, doesn't really matter where you start. We'll start with our Molotow. Now on this truck, I actually have inserts for these grills, but I think they look really horrible. So I've just been Molotowing, using the chrome to cover the entire gap. And if you have a 2 mil, let me show you how 2 mil works on this. You can use a 2 mil if you want. I will usually stay away from the edges and just do the big part in the middle with the 2. And then use the 1 millimeter to go out to the edge. One thing about Molotow is if you do happen to get it where you don't want it, it is alcohol based. So you could use rubbing alcohol and wipe it away and start it over to some extent. I wouldn't say that is perfect, but it does work. It's a solution if you make a big error. Or it's just not, you're like, God, it kind of sucks, I don't like that. You can use Molotow to start over. Excuse me, rubbing alcohol. Where was I? Molotow on the brain. I'm also using Molotow for the headlights because I don't have clear lenses. Okay, here's where I got to be really steady because some of these headlights printed really well, and some of them didn't print worth a crap. And I used the good resin, the higher resolution resin, for these cabs because I wanted them done a little better. Ay, ay, ay. Okay. If you are worried at all about how steady you are with this stuff, you can always put some down here in a dish and use a toothpick. It's going to take a little longer. It will get good results. So just know that that's an option, especially if you're a little nervous about steady hands. And I even warmed up this stupid paint pen. I had this in my pocket the whole time we were talking. Where'd all the ink? I'll bet you this thing's about empty. That's what I'll bet's going on. I used the heck out of this thing. I'll bet I'm about empty. Let's try the big Brutus. See if we can get some out of this. There we go. So I'm going to grab just a little bit of this paint off my big paint pen. Let's see if this works. That's not going to work worth a crap. Let's try it again. Oh, there's some. There we go. That's what I wanted. My lid right in the paint. Okay. There is an air vent. This is optional. There's an air vent right here, and on this particular model, it did not print worth a hooey. So, but I want to put it on to show you how it can be done. This is not the way. This is a way. And the way is, or a way is, really not working worth a shite. Why is that not getting on my... There we go. Okay. Okay, so I put a little bit on, I put kind of like a pool of paint, for lack of a better word, right there on that vent, and then I just drug it out to the edges with my toothpick. Works really well. On this one, you can kind of see the outline a little better than on the passenger side. Okay. All right, so that is a way to do this. And the reason I say a way is because I don't want you to be limited by, I don't want me to limit your imagination. Because if you find a better way and it works and it gets you the results you want, then you do that and you ignore what I'm saying. Okay? So that is the point of me kind of emphasizing in some regard multiple ways to do this. We'll come back with our Molotow here. And let's see if we can get a little bit more. There we go. We got just enough on that lid. We're just going to come in here on these door latches and put little squares. That one didn't print so well, but it's there. And then there's tiny latches right here on all these cabinet doors. You'll need to add those or not. You don't have to add this detail. I've been around some service trucks and they don't have, whoever painted the bed just painted everything. And they didn't bother covering up the latches. So there you go. Those are the latches on the bed. We have different details on the back here, and we'll get to that in a moment. We won't do that just at this very second. We have this window here. You can leave it unpainted, or you can give it some color. You could paint it silver if you wanted it, or chrome, excuse me. You could do it silver if you wanted it to look kind of like a window. I'm going all retro with the Ertl vibe here. If you put Molotow on a plate like I have here, do realize it does dry out. And the warmer it is in your space, the quicker it goes. Come on, get out of there, fellas. Let's see if we can get that stuff to flow. Doesn't want to flow very well. Not at all. Come on. Okay, looks like I'm going to have to warm up my Molotow in my pocket again. So we'll do that. While we're waiting on the Molotow to warm up, we'll go put some red detail on. Okay, so normally I would use the Sharpie or red paint pen for this. I don't have a red Sharpie. I keep forgetting to go buy one. And I smoke my red paint pen, which I also keep forgetting to go buy. So tonight we're using fingernail polish because I do keep this on hand. For, guess what? This purpose. Actually, I bought this like 8 years ago. And I've kept it ever since. And at the time I was doing oxyacetylene tanks with it. Because I was needing a well-priced red that looked kind of like oxygen acetylene. And I thought, hey, wait a minute, that's $1. I know where I can use that. The nice thing about this stuff is it doesn't run. So kind of where you put it is where it stays. Now, it isn't glamorous, I would say, necessarily. It's kind of a means to an end, so, yeah. One thing I would advise as you're handling your model, now that you've got wet Molotow on it, to be very careful how you handle it so you don't put your fingers in it and smear it. That's just, okay, I'm going to start that over. Don't be afraid to clean your toothpick or whatever device you're using for this, especially, you know, you've got $0 in this, so don't be afraid to clean it and take your time. If you happen to have red stickers, you could use a decal for the lights instead. You don't have to hand paint them on. A decal is, in my opinion, is absolutely acceptable. I've seen some guys use jewels, like for making jewelry. But they will actually use jewels for marker lights and stuff. Oh, here's the best one I've done so far. There's 3 tiny lights right there. Sorry, you can't hardly see what I'm doing there. There we go, 3 tiny lights there. Just jazz that one up a little more. Well, okay. I don't recall what these are. I don't know if those are lights or what those are. There are a couple of hand grabs right here. You could make those silver if you wanted. You could make this tailgate silver. I think on the real truck, this part right here is silver. It's, at this point, it's just whatever your personal taste is. Oh, almost forgot. Up here on the front. Oh, you can see where I got my thumb in my Molotow. That looks dumb. Have to go touch that up. If you happen to come across some Kenworth decals and you'd prefer to use those in those spots, use them. However, if you can't find them, here's a way to do it. Okay. What are we missing? Oh, right. Just a couple more latches and then we're done. There, we got it nice and good and warm. There you go. All done. That's essentially it. Now, I would tell you that next week I'll do a bonus lesson. And I will show you some additional things that you can find. I'm going to just, I would tell you straight ahead, it's gratuitous self-promotion because I'm going to put on this thing everything that I sell. However, there are other people that sell similar items, so don't be afraid to go shopping elsewhere. However, if you do shop from me, I appreciate it. Nevertheless, so you're aware, I'm going to be putting, well, this is just a silly thing because that's easy. But next week I'm going to be putting some additional features, just parts and pieces on this that you would be welcome to do to trick out. Because I'm sure some of you you want oxyacetylene tanks, you want a welder, you want a crane, you want this and that. Next week will be that lesson. Now, on this particular truck, a lot of the parts that I've just mentioned are stored away in these cabinets. So if you open up the cabinet, there's hose reels tucked away. You can't see them. However, just to show you some of the products I have and different ways you can do, skin the cat, we'll be adding those on next week. And then, of course, I got a cool thing I add to the front. Oh, speaking of that, I didn't talk about bumper. I just kept my bumper the same color. However, you can paint that any color you want to paint as you wish. So you can easily, it's too late for this now, more or less, but unless, of course, you haven't done all this detail work, you could mask and paint, or you could use a paint pen, or you could use a Sharpie and give this thing some color if you want. Or you can watch next week and I'll show you how I will skin the cat.